Top of the Wednesday morning to you. Welcome into Morning Invest. Good to see all of you on this Wednesday. On today's show, a group of Democrats pushing for a brand new massive stimulus package. This isn't one of those one-off stimulus packages. No, this is a recurring, regular checks stimulus package. We'll tell you what these 11 senators are calling for this morning. Will they get any support from the White House? We will analyze the letter and the push for infrastructure and new stimulus checks. Plus, Bernie Sanders back at it again, and Elizabeth Warren team up. It's like Wonder Twin powers activate. They're rolling out their very own tax on the ultra-rich. We're going to hear from Senator Warren this morning, who mocks a reporter for asking a pretty ridiculous question about the wealth tax. Plus, Bernie plans to force the vote on the $15 minimum wage he's not giving up. He's going to hold the Senate's feet to the fire. And Democrats this morning are really facing their hypocrisy moment in the state of New York around Andrew Cuomo. Will they call for his resignation? Will Democrats step up and call for his resignation? This is the hypocrisy moment that Democrats are facing. All of that and more on the show today. I am freezing this morning. It's like my hands. You ever have where you feel like you can't get warm no matter what?
Oh, yeah.
You need like a toaster. You just need but you've got all that electronics in your office. You have like a toaster right next to your PC, don't you?
It gets pretty warm in here. I got 3 PCs running, so it gets toasty. So what I do is I open up, I don't know if you can see, I open up this door here, and then I have a room on the other side that I open a window and put a fan in, and so it like circulates air through here. Cause it's basically like I'm in a big server room.
Yeah, like that thing off to the right side of you over there that's like glowing. Yeah, like that thing. No, you're to your right side. Yeah, to your right side.
Oh, yeah, that's my
like computer. You could just warm up your hands on that.
PC.
It's like a Bunsen burner in there. It's like a hot plate. You could make some beans, some franks and beans.
Of course, my milk back here. Or
right.
Lemonade.
Your glowing milk.
My lemonade.
Oh, man. I'm really out of sorts. Because we moved. I've been waiting for the freezer to be delivered, so I don't even have a proper... I can't make ice at the moment, so I can't have my normal, iced coffee in the morning, which is good because I'd be freezing my butt off right now having an iced coffee. So I'm all out of sorts as we're building out the new studio and everything.
You and Grover both need a space heater up there.
We do. He was up in my office a little while ago hanging out, chilling out. I got the camera ready. I'm like, buddy, are you going to stick around for today's show? And as soon as I was creeping down the stairs just to get the camera ready, and all of a sudden, one of my kids yelled something downstairs, and he was like, oh, I gotta run. I'm like, come on, man. Hang out with us. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
I know. Seriously. Sit down and hang out, man. Relax a little bit. Hey, did you see this down in Texas? Holy smokes. Texas becomes the biggest U.S. state to lift the COVID-19 mask mandate. They're going all in this morning. So guess what? Texas on March 10th, you are fully reopened. You don't have to wear a mask.
Isn't Louisiana doing the same thing? I think it's Louisiana.
Mississippi.
Mississippi. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Crazy though, huh? I mean, you no masks. Restaurants can open up to full capacity.
If we don't see a surge there, I have a feeling if we don't see a surge in those places of COVID, I think we're gonna all realize we've been duped.
Right. I mean, yeah. Especially as the spring, masks off in Texas. Look at that headline on Drudge this morning. Open 100%. So what the saying is, hey, yeah, still, continue to be smart is literally what the state is saying. Hey, continue to be smart.
Well, the thing is, people can still wear masks if they want to. If you're somebody who's still concerned, you wear your mask.
Yeah, there's no state guidelines now. Just don't, we're gonna watch. I mean, I think to your point, it's going to be interesting to see. This will be a test bed right here of Texas and Mississippi. Everyone goes maskless. All the restaurants reopen to full capacity. You don't have to do any social distancing. Nothing. Full capacity. Literally, Governor Abbott's like, it's done. COVID is gone. We're gone. We're done. Others arguing, saying it's not about you in a mask. It's about the hospital capacity. And when these ICUs are overrun, they have no place to put people in hospital beds. That's the issue. But we'll see. Keep our eye out for that. Many of you sent in your pet photos this morning. team@morninginvest.com. Remember, you can send in your photos of your pet. Give us your name and town, please. But also you can send in pictures if you bought one of our Grover mugs or sweatshirt or anything like that. Please also include that. You can send them to team@morninginvest.com.
I actually
We got a few here.
I actually have Parham working on adding an email address. He's got that set up already for pets@morninginvest.com specifically, so that then we know.
Oh, good.
It's just for pets. So that's already set up. I'll send you the login info for that, but we can start.
Oh, good. Good. We'll show at the end of today's show. We'll show some of your pet photos. We've got a lot today. So we will play those a little bit later in the show at the end. Also, get any of your super chat questions in right now. We will answer any of your finance related, stimulus related questions, anything like that on the economy, holding our leaders accountable, all of that and more. Please send them to us. Here is that headline. So I'm going to turn this light on over here. Forgot me old light. Boy, do we have a busy show for you today. You know, we're not really going to deeply cover it in the show today, but Neera Tanden withdrew her nomination last night for director of OMB.
Yay.
After that's a big progressive win. Progressives have thought that was a terrible choice, and that's really Biden's first big defeat. That was his nominee. They were standing by her. She withdrew her nomination last night when she realized, hey, there's no way forward on this. So she is out. There's moves quickly for Shalanda Young and others. Bernie Sanders pressing Shalanda Young yesterday during a hearing on the minimum wage. We'll hear about that. But a lot of people saying, she could be fast-tracked to replace her immediately. Even Republicans who came out, huge support for her as well. So goodbye, Neera Tanden, but we will see, probably she will have a job inside the White House somehow in some capacity. She might become a White House aide in another capacity. That's what we're hearing today. So we will see how that goes.
You got it. When they fight that hard for somebody, you know that they're benefiting them somehow in a not positive way for us in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
They went all in.
Well, and the question we raised yesterday on the show is, why are you pushing so hard for Neera Tanden? What about the $15 an hour minimum wage? Why aren't you pushing as hard for that as you are for her? You promised Bernie Sanders, you promised Senator Sanders that you would fight for the minimum wage, but you've made no phone calls to people like Joe Manchin, no outreach in that regard, but yet you're reaching out to Republicans like Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. And apparently Bernie Sanders may have been the one that submarined this whole thing.
Biden's showing his true colors and hasn't even gotten his 100 days. He's, that's just, I've not seen anything. I mean, there's been some things good, but not much. At least not what we were told. A bunch of emails from people saying, hey, is it too early to sort of write a guy off? I mean, he's done some good things on unions, right? He's certainly done some good things on workers' rights. But supporting a minimum wage, pushing for $2,000 stimulus checks. We'll see here when this infrastructure battle unfolds. Bombing Syria?
Whether or not bombing Syria, yeah. So with it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Invest. The show has started. A group of Democrats pushing for a brand new stimulus package. It's pretty large. You won't believe what's in it. It's what I've been calling for a year. I'm super excited about it. We'll see how much traction it has today. We'll read you the letter. 11 senators have signed on. There could be more by the end of the day. So we will get to the heart of this breaking news on a new stimulus package. This is not the $1.9 trillion stimulus package that we've been talking about. So we'll have more news on that. Plus, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren rolled out their tax on the ultra-rich. We're going to hear from Senator Warren this morning. Also, Bernie Sanders plans to force the vote on the $15 an hour minimum wage. He's not giving up on this thing. He wants the Senate to go on record, and he's bringing up an amendment as early as today for a $15 an hour minimum wage. So he's not giving up on that. And we're going to talk about Andrew Cuomo. I've been waiting for the dust to kind of settle a little bit. Now that it's settled and we have a clear picture of what's going on here, I wanted to see where Democrats would settle on this. It's their hypocrisy moment for Democrats right now. Will Democrats call for his resignation? They've certainly called for the resignation of Republicans when the shoe was on the other foot and when the allegations weren't even as strong as they are against Andrew Cuomo. Will they be hypocritical? You know I like a good bowl of hypocrisy, so we will hold them accountable on that and more on today's show. Good morning, everyone. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to get to all of this breaking news on the stimulus front. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Atomic Social. Do you know, holy smokes, there are 60,000 searches that happen on the internet every second. 75% of people never even scroll past that first page of Google. So if your business is on the second or third page of Google, you're screwed. That's why it's crucial to have a responsive web design. These guys will make sure of it. So whether you're a local business looking to drive foot traffic, or you're a medium business looking to rank better on Google, Atomic Social has a custom-tailored solution for you. They can help any business with a website. And if you don't have a website, guess what? They can help with that too. They build amazing websites. Atomic Social offers flexible SEO and website packages that are focused on building a strong foundation for your online success. I've seen their websites that they build. They really are gorgeous. And they're not cookie cutter. They build beautiful custom designs based on the type of business you're running. And SEO is incredibly important. They offer these flexible SEO and website packages that are focused on building a strong foundation for your online success. So it's fantastic ways for you to reach your target customers wherever they are searching from. Contact their team of experts today for a free SEO or website package. Now, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to morninginvest.com/atomic. That's the website where you're going to want to go, okay? And when you get there, what you'll notice is a pop-up calendar. It's very simple. What'll happen here, just pull it up here on the screen. Good old internet today. There you go. Okay, so here's the calendar. And what'll happen is you'll pick a time slot, a 20-minute time slot that you can choose to get on the phone with them. Boom, boom, boom. You pick the time that works for you. You'll be on the phone with them for 20 minutes. And they will help you with a fantastic SEO strategy. And one thing they're giving away today, they're giving away $500 in Atomic Social credit to all of my viewers to use towards any of their services. That's right, website design. If you've been wanting a new website or updated website or SEO or anything to drive traffic, let them know you came through Morning Invest and receive $500 in credit. All you have to do is book a call with that link right there. So just to clarify, they're giving away a totally free consultation, and they'll get on the phone with you, walk you through a custom strategy for your business. $500 towards your brand. That's awesome. So go to morninginvest.com/atomic today. We really appreciate their support. We're just getting some breaking news here. Wow. We just got some breaking news on a business front I want to get to here. This is huge news. On the technology front, Google is planning to stop selling ads based on a person's browsing history. And it's no longer going to use tools and that use ad tools that track individuals across websites. Did you hear me? That's
I wonder if
friggin'
that has
huge.
to do with the Apple push.
It likely. This just breaking right now. I mean, this is a huge story. I mean, it's really at the heart of their business model. That they're going to be able to, how this will affect the ad industry. I mean, we're going to be tracking this. I'll be looking at it. We'll have a full write-up on it in tomorrow's newsletter. So if you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, please subscribe. Go to morninginvest.com and join our email list. We do a morning newsletter, so we will cover that fully tomorrow, but hopefully have more details here as the show unfolds. But that's huge news. That's the heart of their entire business. Privacy concerns being tracked across the web. Have you ever had one of those ads pop up? You're like, I never mentioned to anyone that I'm pregnant. But suddenly I'm getting ads for all of this stuff, and I haven't told anyone that I am in fact pregnant. No one knows, but somehow Google knows? It's pretty interesting. All right, let's get to your stimulus news this morning. We've got a lot to get to because a lot of different moving pieces on the stimulus front today. Breaking news on that stimulus front this morning, as 11 senators are now calling for a major new stimulus plan that would be bundled together with an infrastructure plan. Now, remember, this new infrastructure plan likely could hit up to $3 trillion when it's unveiled in a few weeks. And 11 senators are coming together saying, hey, it's not enough that we just fix roads and bridges. We want a comprehensive new stimulus plan to be included in this infrastructure plan through the reconciliation process. So once again, they wouldn't need Republicans. And they don't want this bill to have to go through all the hoops and hurdles like the last bill did or any other previous stimulus package. They basically want in this bill a permanent solution to stimulus. Think of this as a permanent stimulus plan, which is in many ways what I've been calling for, haven't I? I mean, if you've been watching my show for any length of time, I've been calling for a regular recurring stimulus upwards of $2,000 a month, unemployment benefits until this pandemic is finished, and then maybe even a ground floor of some sort of universal basic income like Andrew Yang had proposed. So, let me be clear about this. This is different than the current $1.9 trillion relief package with some direct payments and increased unemployment. That's going to pass. That's likely going to pass maybe by the end of the week. But it's going to run out of money, and it's going to run out, and it'll be done. And it'll likely be done before the pandemic is over. But this new proposal from Democrats involves permanently recurring stimulus and unemployment payments. Again, much like universal basic income. And they're done fooling around about arguing about these packages. They've been at it for almost a year. And each time there's a big public grandstanding around the whole thing, followed by another big grandstanding, another big filibustering. Everyone goes on national television and complains. So what these senators are saying is enough already. So these senators signed together a package of they sent a letter to President Biden. The senators that signed this request include Ron Wyden, Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders, Sherrod Brown, Elizabeth Warren, Alex Padilla, Michael Bennet, Tammy Baldwin, and Kristen Gillibrand. And here's what they say. Dear Mr. President, dear President Biden, as we work together to get much needed relief to American families, we appreciate your strong support for direct payments and enhanced unemployment insurance for millions of families, et cetera, et cetera. We urge you to include recurring direct payments and automatic unemployment insurance extensions tied to these economic conditions. So, your infrastructure plan, we want the economy, based on how the economy is doing, to have these stimulus checks go out based on how well the economy is recovering. That's what other countries are doing. You might be sitting there saying, how would we do this? Well, look around. Look at France. They do it. Look at Germany. They do it. Look at Japan. Look at Canada. Look at Australia. Analyzing how the recovery is going, and then based on how that recovery is going, checks would go out based on that recovery. It's not rocket science. But in the United States, it is. So the bill goes on, the plan goes on. Basically, we want this crisis is far from over, and the families deserve certainty that they can put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Families should not be at the mercy of constantly shifting legislative timelines and ad hoc solutions. But here's the meat of it. Listen to this part. There are several reasons to prioritize both recurring payments and enhanced unemployment insurance. First, these two forms of payments are effective together. Unemployment insurance has replaced lost income for millions who've lost their jobs, but millions of others do not qualify for unemployment insurance after seeing their hours reduced, switching to lower paying jobs, or temporarily leaving the workforce to care for family members during the pandemic. So there you go. That, to me, is the crux of it. I'll highlight that piece again. This is what I've been saying on the show. Millions of others do not qualify for unemployment insurance after seeing their hours reduced. But that's what Republicans have been missing in their arguments against increasing unemployment benefits or stimulus checks. That right there is the nugget. Now, who knows how far this will go? Will President Biden support it? Can they? When you have you have 11 senators, we'll see if Chuck Schumer gets on board. Now, if the majority leader can push on this, and if enough members of the Progressive Party can push, the progressive wing of the party can push the more moderate members of the party in this direction, this could be included inside of this infrastructure bill. So we're just seeing the early stages of this. And we did hear just a few days ago, we heard from the Illinois senator, whose name escapes me off the top of my head, which is Dick Durbin, saying we're about to go big on infrastructure. We have some things in here that are going to surprise you. So they're on board, and a lot of these members are on board. And not all of them are progressive at all. I mean, when I read through those names, they're not all like really progressive wing of the party. Senator Warren, though, for her, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop me a comment below. Let me know, would you support a recurring stimulus plan and unemployment benefits that work in conjunction with each other and that are tied to the economic recovery? For instance, they would be reduced as employment increases, right? As employment increases across the United States, we would sort of be means testing that based on our recovery, which makes sense. Anyway, that's my opinion. I don't want to lead the witness, but drop me a comment below. Would you support recurring stimulus based on this structure? Again, here are a couple of the key takeaways that what these senators want to do. Extend unemployment benefits without a deadline. They would have recurring stimulus checks, and they would tie these benefits to economic conditions. This would be the plan in a new stimulus package. By the way, I shouldn't mention, there is going to be another stimulus package. It's the infrastructure package is what we're sort of calling it more broadly. But there's going to be a lot of stuff in this infrastructure package that's going to have nothing to do with roads and bridges. And we'll get to infrastructure in a minute. We wrote about it in today's newsletter, so we'll talk more about that in a second. Senator Warren, though, and Bernie Sanders coming out swinging on the idea of going after the ultra-rich. So yesterday, rolling out their proposed 2% annual tax on wealthy people, over $50 million in assets. So how many of you watching right now have over $50 million in assets? Just show of hands. Put your hands up if you do. If you do, you would be a person that would end up paying 2 cents per dollar on that 50 million or above. And it would rise to 3% for people over $1 billion. It's called the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act, and it would aim to close that gap on the wealth gap, which has, of course, exploded during the COVID pandemic. We're seeing companies that have been doing fantastic over the past few months, past year. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, companies across the board are doing so great. Corporate profits are up, but wages are down, hours are cut, and you're suffering. So what would this do? Now I want you to watch. Here's Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is sharp as a tack, by the way. And so I like Andrew Ross Sorkin from CNBC, but I think he asks a fairly ridiculous question, and he gets called out by Elizabeth Warren. So watch this exchange. I think it was an informative discussion about the wealth tax. I don't think he had any good questions about it, except for the first one, which is that Janet Yellen supports it, but she's worried about the implementation. Beyond that, I don't think his questions really had much water.
Senator Elizabeth Warren introducing what she's calling an ultra-millionaire tax. It would be on fortunes of over $50 million, impacting the 100,000 richest households in the United States. Senator Warren says she expects the proposal to bring in at least $3 trillion in revenue over 10 years. And joining us right now to talk about all of it is Senator Elizabeth Warren. She serves, of course, on both the Banking and Finance Committees. Senator, thank you for joining us. You have stirred up quite a conversation, and we want to have it with you this morning. In particular, what I wanted to start here, I had a conversation with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen last week, and I asked her about the prospect of a wealth tax, and she said she thought it was, quote, very difficult with implementation problems. And I wanted to understand your thought about how this would work.
So I just want to start by saying if Janet Yellen is all on board except for implementation, we're in really good shape on this, because the implementation part is really a lot easier than it looks. Remember the way that the wealth tax is built. It says if your fortune is below $50 million, nothing. We're not talking to you. If it's above 50 million, your 50 millionth and first dollar, you got to pitch in 2 cents, 2 cents for every dollar above that. You hit $1 billion in assets, you got to pitch in a few pennies more. The nice thing about the way it's set up is we learned from some of the mistakes they made in Europe. So this version of the wealth tax says it covers all of your property. Doesn't matter whether it's held in stock or in real estate or in racehorses. Everything is covered, so there's no point in moving property around. Also, wherever you hold it, it is covered, whether you hold it here in the U.S., whether you hold it in the Cayman Islands. And remember, we are already valuing property. We do it at death. We value all real estate every year for real estate taxes, and valuing stock is not very hard. So I think we've kind of got the implementation part of this locked down.
Senator, what do you make, though, of the idea that some people believe this would be considered confiscatory, but perhaps more importantly, that oftentimes these are quote unquote unrealized gains?
I love that she just rolls her eyes. It would be confiscatory. Or confiscating your wealth, or confiscating it.
We've seen remarkable gains in the stock market this year, but who knows what's going to happen next year? We've seen Bitcoin millionaires and billionaires get made, but of course, it's a very volatile asset, if it's an asset at all.
You know, Andrew, I hope you're embarrassed to ask if 2 cents is confiscatory. This is 2 cents. On assets above $50 million.
But Elizabeth, I work at CNBC. This is the channel for rich people. I have to ask that question. I have to look out for our rich buddies and all of the rich, all of the hedge funds and all of the banks that buy advertising on this channel. So of course I have to ask that question. Is it confiscatory?
And just to put that in a little context, since the pandemic, our 660 billionaires in America have increased their wealth by $1.3 trillion. This wealth tax will raise about $3 trillion over 10 years, as you started out. And what people should be thinking about is, what does that tell you about the top end of the wealth distribution, that a 2 cent wealth tax, like I said, a little bit more on billionaires, but a 2 cent wealth tax will raise $3 trillion over 10 years.
And that would pay for the infrastructure, among other things, childcare, et cetera. So what do they plan to do with this wealth tax, this ultra wealth tax? And there are a growing number of Democrats who support it. Will the White House jump on board with progressive push? Again, this comes down to getting on the phone and calling your members of Congress and demanding that your representative support the ultra wealth tax that was just put forward by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. When you have a growing cacophony of voices from your constituency that's pushing for this, this is how things change. And I kind of feel like Biden right now, he's kind of like this weather vane. Like, we know how he is. We know that he's a more moderate Democrat. We know that he's not as progressive as we would like him to be, right? Otherwise, we wanted Bernie Sanders, at least I did, in the presidency. But we didn't get him because Democrats and the party kept him out. And the DNC didn't want him. They railroaded him. The Clinton wing of the party, endless stories there. But this is an opportunity for us to get on the phone and call members of Congress and demand that they support these types of programs. And look, the country is moving in this direction. The number of members of Congress who have won elections are more progressive than not. The ones who were waffling in the middle lost. That's the postmortem from this past election in the House of Representatives. Why did really progressive candidates like Cori Bush's and Pramila Jayapal, others who were really progressive, want free public college, Medicare for all, they win re-election? AOC? It's the ones that hang out in the middle that lost. It's the ones that waffle in the center. So let's go big on these things. How in the world are these members of these companies able to pay $0 in taxes? I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took to Capitol Hill to basically grill the comptroller of the United States on this question. How is Facebook able to get away with paying virtually nothing? Here's AOC, and I love how she warms people up with like a nice little saccharin, like she's very like sugar coated, like, thank you so much for being here. I just really want to thank you for being here. But let me ask you, why are you a hypocrite?
Mr. Dodaro, let's talk about taxes. If I was the CEO presently of a large international corporation that was founded here in the United States and wanted to manipulate my taxes and park the profits somewhere else, do you think I'd be able to get away with that in our current system?
Well, there's a lot of potential loopholes in the current system that can be exploited.
And that's exactly what Senator Warren is talking about with her ultra wealth tax. Because what Europe did with their wealthy tax, it enabled people to just offshore their finances, put them in, yachts that hung out in, Greece, in a harbor in Greece, or in racehorses and in South America. What this would do, it wouldn't matter where you're hiding your assets. Like, are you Jeff Bezos with your massive yacht? You're David Geffen with your massive yacht. It wouldn't matter. You can try to park things in Ireland. You can try to run things through a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands. Too bad. It's not going to work. You'll still have to pay taxes. That's what this ultra wealth tax would do.
Thank you. And, actually, according to this ProPublica article, it seems that some records have been unearthed. And Sheryl Sandberg wrote in an April 2008 email that, quote, "My experience is that by not having a European center and running everything through the US, it is costly in terms of taxes." And Facebook's head of tax actually replied to Sandberg in these records and that the company needed to find a, quote, "low-taxed jurisdiction to park profits." And it found that jurisdiction in Ireland, where its tax rate is near zero. Now, why would Facebook, you think, want to do that?
Well, there's different tax advantages. I'm going to have Mr. Mims, our expert in the tax area, I'm going to ask him to help comment.
Sure, of course.
Because we've looked at some offshoring kind of issues. Chris?
Thank you, sir. And yes, ma'am, we've looked at offshoring, and as you're suggesting, that there are various tax advantages to where major corporations claim that their businesses are taking place, and they are fully aware of those tax advantages, and they use those to their advantage to minimize the amount of taxes that they have to pay.
Thank you.
Yeah. These loopholes exist. The wealthy are going to use them. You know who doesn't get to take advantage of loopholes? It's you. It's the W-2 employee. It's the person that works for somebody else and gets a paycheck, has their hours cut, and yet is still in the highest tax bracket. Ends up paying the most in taxes into the system. You end up paying taxes every year. Why doesn't Facebook? Oh, you know why? Because they set up a new corporation. They funneled their money through Ireland so they don't have to bring it back home and pay taxes. That's how they do it. It's because these loopholes exist. By having these types of structures, by having these types of starting with like an ultra wealth tax, so that, park these assets offshore where you think those are free from government control, free from the government getting its money. Not going to happen. And there's a way around that. So this policy would at least raise $3 trillion over a decade, they found. Elizabeth Warren called for the tax revenues to be invested in childcare and early education, K through 12 education, and infrastructure. And so the question is this morning, do we need infrastructure? Oh, you bet we do. Did you read the newsletter this morning, by the way? If you read my newsletter, and by the way, shame on you if you're not a subscriber to a newsletter. Come on, it's totally free. We publish it first thing in the morning, and it's delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. We cover about 5 or 6 big stories, progressive issues that we believe are important. So if you would like to subscribe, just go to morninginvest.com, put in your email address, You will receive a welcome email, and then we publish it usually around 7 a.m. Eastern time. So you should get it Monday through Friday. Anyway, one of the stories that we covered in there was this story on, let's see if I can pull it up here, on infrastructure. What the heck is that infrastructure story? Yes, we called it, That's How the Infrastructure Crumbles. I mean, this is just one example. Look at this bridge in St. Louis. You are allowed to drive across this bridge. I mean, this is just one example. Right now, a new report just came out yesterday, and the United States gets a C from the American Society of Civil Engineers. Like that's like the grade I got in school, a C. In math, anyway. A C really kind of sucks when you think about it. When it comes to our infrastructure, like, would you want to drive across a bridge that gets a C rating? Isn't that kind of putting like your life in your hands? Like you're like, hey, it may collapse. I don't know. It's a C. It's not a D, but it's not an A. It's a little bit better than we got in 2017. We got a D plus back in 2017 for infrastructure. And by infrastructure, we're talking about, according to the report, refers to roads, buildings, utilities, transportation. You know, the things that make a society a society. When those things start to crumble, it's like the fall of Rome. Can't rely on those roads anymore. They're overrun.
I mean, we get bad grades on everything. We might as well be consistent, right? I mean, for healthcare and all that,
Right.
If you look at us globally, we're like, for everything, education, we might as well make the bottom of the list everywhere if we're going to do it.
Yeah, we're the fattest country in the world. That's great. We are behind Estonia. I love bringing up Estonia. When it comes to internet speed, Rwanda beats us for internet speed. Do you remember that Rwanda had a genocide just a few short years ago where the country was destroyed? The United States is worse off than Rwanda. This report was 170 pages, and it concluded that the country faces a $2.5 trillion shortfall in infrastructure. But previous Presidents Obama and Trump unable to earn any congressional approval to pay for any of this. We kept hearing that Trump was going to put forward the infrastructure, the weak plan. Remember, he kept saying that, and that he would have broad support for it. Didn't happen. Even though the grade is going up, 11 out of the 17 categories still earned a D, including this, aviation. Aviation in the United States gets a D grade for infrastructure. Okay, that makes me feel good. And here's another one, dams. Yeah, levees. Dams and levees have a D grade. Look at Katrina. All you need to do is look at Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans to see how that fared. Hazardous waste is another where we get a D grade. Inland waterways. As I mentioned, levees, public parks, roads, schools, stormwater, transit, wastewater. We all get a D. It's terrible. My wife said to me this morning, she's like, yeah, that infrastructure story. She was doing deep research on this morning for the newsletter. And she's like, I cannot believe this is awful. Just think about it. When's the last time you've gone to a park that was really, really nice? Like, I often see parks and they always seem like the benches are always falling apart. There's spray paint all over the place. Like, when's the last time you went to a park and you're like, man, this park is just gorgeous? Where there's not trash everywhere and, you know, I don't know. I just feel like it's rare that I see a park that's well taken care of. Like, you go to Central Park in New York, there's the Park Commission, right? The Central Park Police. They have their own police force. That's because they charge $20 every time you go through the Lincoln Tunnel to go in Manhattan. Better go to something. But here's St. Louis. These are the types of bridges we're driving over the United States. So, by the way, this report cites $2.9 trillion in shortfall that we need. Well, guess what? That's what Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders' plan would cover, $3 trillion by taxing the ultra-wealthy. So President Biden is going to meet with lawmakers tomorrow to discuss possible action on this. This report is not good, but it certainly comes at an interesting time, right at the moment when they're considering passing a massive infrastructure plan. Ron Wyden of Oregon He's one of the senators joining forces on this. I'm leading Senate Democrats in pressing the Biden administration to include an automatic extension of unemployment benefits tied to economic conditions in the next round of COVID relief, along with Bernie Sanders. We need to get workers off the financial roller coaster, and this is the way to do it. So good news on infrastructure, good news on, good news on maybe perhaps this extended unemployment benefits and additional stimulus checks. Bernie Sanders tweeting this: as soon as tomorrow, I'm going to introduce an amendment on the floor of the U.S. Senate to end starvation wages in America. No one can survive on $7.25 an hour. So I want to turn our attention a little bit to minimum wage here, because Bernie Sanders is not giving up on the minimum wage push. You thought just because it was going to hit that parliamentarian wall in the Senate? Well, Bernie Sanders has an end around, another plan on this. And he is going to push through an amendment that's going to hold the Senate's feet to the fire and get people to vote on a minimum wage increase. Can he get the support on this? And he might find some unlikely support in places like Mitt Romney and Susan Collins, and a little bit of horse trading going on here. But this wouldn't be an amendment to the bill. Now, we'll see if it gets pushed through with reconciliation, and do they plan to stand up and stand strong against the Senate parliamentarian? Can Kamala Harris come in and say, we are going to go around, through this amendment, we are going to go around the Senate parliamentarian and pass minimum wage? I mean, they're getting tons of flack from progressives on this issue. A starvation wage at $7.25 an hour. So it would literally just sit there. And by the way, the Republicans are saying, we just can't afford it right now. It'll crush business. It's interesting. It's interesting when you look at that from a large business perspective, which is really the target of this bill. It would be to go after, the large corporations who aren't, Walmart particularly, and others who are paying these starvation wages, McDonald's. Why do you have other companies that can pull this off and do pretty well? So the Target CEO was interviewed on this question yesterday. Now, they raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour, and they did it a number of years ago. So how has it worked for them? Are they struggling? Listen to Target CEO talk about how this has actually changed their company.
Starting salary of $15 an hour, so it wouldn't necessarily impact you in terms of what you have to do, but you raised minimum wage to $15 and offered a bunch of other things to your associates to try and retain them, keeping the retention, making this a place where you can get the best workers. So if minimum wage is raised on a national level to $15 an hour, what would that mean for you? Starting salary of $15 an hour, so it wouldn't necessarily impact you in terms of what you have to do, but you raised minimum wage to $15. If minimum wage is raised on a national level to $15 an hour, what would that mean for you? Would you have to raise your wages even further to compete?
Again, I'll go all the way back to our financial community meeting back in 2017. And one of the things that we committed to that day was investing over $1 billion in our team, in pay, in benefits, in training and development, to ensure we had the best team in retail. And we made a commitment that day to move our starting minimum wage to $15, which we did back in 2020. We continue to pay bonuses throughout the year, 5 of them in our fiscal year 2020. So we've been out in front in investing in our team. While we've got lots of great highlights that we'll talk about later today at our investor conference, all of it comes down to the investments we've made in our team. Our investments in our store leaders, in our distribution leaders, our frontline team members who are connecting with our guests, making sure we've created an easy, but importantly, a safe shopping environment that's built trust throughout the year. So we'll continue to make sure we're always taking care of and investing in our team.
Meaning that if minimum wage nationally raises to $15, you'd go higher?
Well, we feel really good about our position today, and we'll assess this, obviously, as the weeks go by. But I feel really good about the investments we've made in our team. Obviously, we've been leading the way, moving to $15. We want to make sure that we're going to continue to invest in our team.
So how does Target doing? Raising their minimum wage, and that was one piece of this. Also adding in and layering in additional bonuses for employees. How did it turn out? Well, we got their earnings yesterday. So how's Target doing? Are they scraping? Are they suffering like so many other big box retailers? No. Target's earnings up 21%. 21% increase during a pandemic. While others similar size have been really struggling. Kind of shocking what happens when you take care of your employees. The retention rate stays. People are less likely to, okay, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to go across the street and work at Walmart. Because you know what? It looks like our company actually cares. They invested $1 billion into bonuses, employee retention, putting an effort into making sure that the employees stay longer. Because God knows the amount of money that you spend on employee training, that's, McDonald's spends so much money on employee training. Like, wouldn't it be great if they could increase the costs and pay them more so they don't have to spend so much on employee training over and over and over again because people keep quitting?
Well, and that's kind of where I feel like it, with what Bernie is saying, like, I think that should be tied to, the amount of money a company makes or something, because my fear is with the minimum wage is a $15 minimum wage is it's going to really kill small businesses. So I think that there's an argument for forcing it to companies that can definitely afford it. But I do feel like small businesses in many cases, if you had that $15 minimum wage, I think we'd see a lot of the people just getting started and, small businesses probably going under, and I know a lot of people are like, well, if they can't pay $15 minimum wage, they deserve to go under, but they're just getting started. They can't get to the point where they could do $15 an hour if, they go out of business.
Right. That's what Ro Khanna was saying yesterday in his interview with Ben Shapiro. It's like, the idea, he's more concerned about the larger companies, the 500 plus employee companies, the largest retailers in the United States. Walmart is the largest retailer in the United States. And their CEO just bought like a 26 room house with, a yacht and all this kind of stuff. And Bernie Sanders continues to go after them and rail them on that issue. And so, yes, these companies that pay their CEOs tens of millions of dollars and they pay their employees a starvation wage. And by the way, they don't pay any taxes. That's the other great thing about this. To your point about these small businesses is that these small businesses end up carrying the brunt of the tax burden. Because they're not able to set up an offshore account in Ireland to launder money through it, like Facebook and Amazon, Walmart, and others.
Well, and what happens too, like those smaller companies, if they are going to have employees, they do have to compensate with their product to increase in order to cover those wages. And what happens is when you've got, like let's use True Value Hardware, which is a smaller hardware company compared to like Walmart. Walmart can sell their products for almost a loss because they sell so much that these small companies like True Value Hardware, they have to mark it up in order. Like you go in there and they're already struggling to keep employees, because they're trying to pay, because they're not making a ton of money. So that's what's going to happen is Walmart's, Targets, all these other big companies, they would love to have this minimum wage because it's going to completely squash their competition and make them even bigger, because they can take those losses, just like Amazon did at first. You know how Amazon got started? They took a loss on books. They took a loss on products for years because they were making so many sales that they could afford to do that. Whereas these small companies, that they completely took out of the marketplace because they couldn't afford to do that because they had to make money to keep their businesses open. And that's what I fear is going to happen if you make this a federal mandate, a federal minimum wage, is we're not going to see the Targets and stuff like that suffer at all. You're going to see a bunch of small businesses just closing, and these are regular people. These are people like you and me that just start a business because we have an idea and something that we want to do, and it's gonna keep people from being able to do that
unless there's subsidies available. And
right.
That's where Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna even talked about subsidies for small businesses. So yes, you, David, might have to raise your minimum wage for your 5 employees, your 7 employees, whatever it is. But we are also going to give you tax incentives to basically offset that. So yes, you will pay more for your employee, but you will basically it will be a zeroed out. You will not end up seeing that come out of your bottom line because we are going to provide tax incentives based on now your employees, an employee tax credit.
if they did that, if small businesses got the exact same tax exemptions, got the exact same subsidies, got the same like bailouts when all these big companies were bailed out, if small businesses would have been bailed out. No, what happened was the big businesses are bailed out. The small companies have to get it in the form of a loan that they have to pay back. It's like there's no investment, like anything because small business owners are us. It's the people. There is no help for us personally, and there's no help for us as small businesses. Everything goes to the top wealthiest companies, and those are the ones that should be targeted for all of this extra stuff that they're going for, these extra taxes, the minimum wage. Like, that's who they need to be going after, not the little guy.
Right. Right. And the problem is, too, I think when the little guy very often doesn't even know that some of these new incentives exist. They might not have access to the best tax accountants that an Amazon has access to. So there has to be a part of this there has to be an education process in this too. Maybe a small business outreach, something that reaches out through the Chamber of Commerce, the National Chamber of Commerce for small businesses, so that businesses are made aware that, hey, guess what? Yes, you are going to have to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour for your employees. You've got 5 employees, we're going to pay them a living wage. At the same time, you're going to get to offset that on your taxes, so you will not see a bottom line problem. Like, you are not going to come out of your pocket to pay more. You're going to get this as a tax credit at the end of the year or quarterly or however it's structured through the IRS. So this will actually be a net zero for you. You're not going to have to worry about it. And that's the way that this could work.
And one thing I want to know too is, like, you have during this pandemic, you have over 100,000 businesses now. Over 100,000 small businesses have gone under. How many big box stores have gone under? They have virtually not been affected by any of this. They've been allowed to stay open. They've been seen as essential, but 100,000 small businesses have gone under.
Yeah. Yeah. And an inordinate number of black and brown businesses have gone under. So we talk about the backbone of the economy being small business, about, workers and small business. And when, all of those like little bookshops that we care to support, the little hardware store, the little nail salon, or whatever it is that we want to support in our community, the bedrock of those communities, we have Small Business Saturday, because even before a pandemic, small businesses were being crushed by these big box stores. Walmart can come into a Bluefield, West Virginia, and all of those little businesses in downtown Bluefield, West Virginia are just crushed when the super Walmart comes in, because they can just lower prices on everything. And no one can compete. You're going to go buy a TV from the little TV shop down the street? No way. You're going to go to Walmart to buy the TV because it's going to be way cheaper. It's a disaster. So they need to be able to step in and do something about it. Bernie Sanders, though, not giving up on this. He challenged yesterday Shalonda Young, who could very well become the replacement for Neera Tanden, pressed on this minimum wage issue. Again, will she support it at the Office of Management and Budget if she is placed in that position?
Facing our country. So I'm going to ask you the questions, and your answers can be very, very brief. President has indicated strong support for increasing the minimum wage in our country from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely, Chairman Sanders.
President has made clear that he wants to see public colleges and universities tuition-free and canceling student debt, not completely, but making progress in canceling student debt for working families making less than $125,000 a year. Do you agree with that?
Yes, Senator Sanders.
The president has indicated that he wants to lower the eligibility age for Medicare from 65 to 60 and expand Medicare coverage to include hearing, vision, and dental care. Is that something you support?
Yes, Senator Sanders.
Good. The president has indicated that he wants to see Medicare begin negotiating prices with the pharmaceutical industry to lower the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs in America. Is that something you support?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So yes, all of the above. All right, so we'll be watching today Bernie Sanders rolling out an amendment on minimum wage to see how this plays out. We'll be keeping our eye on it. But I think, we're in agreement. Small businesses need tax incentives. They need subsidies in order to be able to roll this out. I know of plenty of small businesses that would, yes, it would hit them. But also, I think, too, we need to be aware that this is rolling out over a 4 or 5 year period. So I like to think that if you're a business, you better get your crap together and figure this out over 5 years, that you're going to have to increase the payment to your employees maybe $1 a year. Like if you're cutting things that close, I'm more worried about some other things. If you're cutting things that close, where you literally are worried about $1 for an employee, okay. But government subsidies necessary to maybe help ease this pain for these people in the small business arena. These big businesses that are making 21% in profits, Target, etc., they're cleaning up. Walmart, massive profits. Amazon, massive profits. I mean, I think they had a record year, didn't they, Amazon? Jeff Bezos made another $67 billion. And then they can funnel these articles into the Washington Post and other places about how, we don't think paying $2,000 stimulus checks is good for the American people. It might actually be bad. Yeah, it's bad for you, I guess, Jeff Bezos. We should be really worried about you. Here's a story we need to cover because it's an important one for Democrats. And it's a real moment for them. We're going to see this week and into next week what they do on Governor Andrew Cuomo. Should he be facing explicit calls to resign from President Biden? Should President Biden be saying, hey, Andrew Cuomo, after the third person has now come forward with a sexual harassment complaint, this woman who says, at this party, and she was there as a guest, and she says hello and introduces herself as a friend of a staff member. I actually know where that restaurant is in Midtown Manhattan. And he grabs her by the face and says, can I kiss you? She's like, what? No? And he later says, I was just playing around. Just playing around. That was just me being friendly. Really? Bill de Blasio doesn't think it's funny. He's the mayor of New York. They've come to blows before, though. He doesn't think it's funny that this is how you treat people. He wants him to resign. So he's an outspoken Democrat, but, I guess because they don't actually get along, you expect this. But will President Biden do the same thing as Bill de Blasio?
Not an apology. He seemed to be saying, I was just kidding around. Sexual harassment is not funny. It's serious. It has to be taken seriously. And he just clearly was letting himself off the hook for something that, for the women involved, sounded pretty terrifying. And no, we need a full investigation. We need the whole truth of what happened. We need to make sure it never happens again.
So if you apply the same standards that Democrats set for similar allegations against Republicans, it's not even a close call. If you think about the Me Too movement, which saw men in power run out of town, major media corporations, film studios, etc., for exploiting young women. And Democrats led the charge on that. And so the silence of so many of them right now, while they're all so quiet about this, why isn't this leading the headlines on MSNBC? Why isn't this the lead story everywhere? It's unacceptable. This is the kind of thing that they would be covering hour by hour on CNN and MSNBC. But they're not. And they're not coming out. They're not being very vocal about it. And the only, as Mike Allen points out this morning, he says, the only plausible explanation would be to argue that these three women who've now come out against, we even have photos. We have photos of him grabbing her face, by the way. Okay. How often do you have photos of it? You would have to basically argue that these three women are somehow exaggerating, or they're just forgetting. They're just misremembering what happened. And this is exactly what Democrats said was totally unacceptable for Republicans. One top New York Democrat told Mike Allen, he said that this has been disheartening. This idea, this approach by both parties of believing women, except if they accuse a member of your own party. That's what happens, right? We're going to go after you if it's the other party that makes this accusation. This should just be a blanket standard. It should have nothing to do with party. Jen Psaki was asked about this yesterday during the White House press briefing, I thought gave a pretty weak response on this. Imagine if this was a Republican. Like, imagine if she was answering the question about a Republican. How would this play out? Here's Jen Psaki yesterday answering that question.
The language, the president has a bar for what is expected in his administration, which you referenced, treating people with civility, treating people with respect, and that's what bar he holds in his administration. In terms of the path forward and the outcome of the investigation, we will leave it to the Attorney General and others to conclude that.
So we're just going to leave it up to them. We're not going to speak out about it. We're just going to leave it up to them. I thought that was a pretty weak response. What do you think? Let me know in the chat below. Do you think that was a weak response? Should they not stand up?
I always think their answers are weak. Like they never dive down into, like they always, like, it's almost like always her versus the press. It's like it's a versus. It's not like, hey, we're here, we're having a conversation, we're getting information. Like, I feel like we never walk away with anything that we didn't already know.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think, why the press hasn't been so keen on covering or cutting away to Jen Psaki press conferences, because it's like more of the same. Oh, like we're back to like kind of politics as usual in Washington. But why they would cut away and take a Kayleigh McEnany press conference under Trump, because God knows, you never know what was going to be said. She could come out and just hammer whomever, slam Mitch McConnell, and it was always like a theater. And now we're just sort of back to this dog and pony show. Remember, Democrats hammered Donald Trump after the Access Hollywood stuff. Remember that? They slammed Brett Kavanaugh over the Christine Blasey Ford allegations. Hammered him. I mean, Rachel Maddow did night after night after night covering the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court nomination and confirmation hearings. And they basically ignored or defended Joe Biden when he was accused of inappropriate touching.
Well, and
like sniffing the neck of like girls and stuff.
And he was actually, Tara Reid. He was actually accused of a lot more than that, but it just got brushed under the rug.
Yeah. So a Democratic strategist close to the White House pointed out to, basically says like, there's PTSD among Democrats after what they did to Senator Al Franken when they forced him to resign in 2017. So they're saying, wait a minute, we may be, as Democrats, rushing to judgment here. But Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York was the first Democrat to say that Franken should resign. She called the allegations against Cuomo serious and deeply concerning. Okay, call for his resignation. 3 different women coming forward now. I mean, this is just the sexual allegation stuff. Now, on top of, let's go further, and now on top of the nursing home scandal, on top of, hiding the number of nursing home deaths because of COVID. Let's not forget about that. This all comes, of course, after Cuomo released a book on how great his leadership is. It's this culture, though. You and I were talking about it a little bit yesterday. It's this culture, like this sort of patriarchal structure of men, sort of an old boys club, run things. They're so insulated. They're all around their yes men constantly, and then they think they can just sexually harass or just chauvinistically push women around a certain way and get away with it. I mean, I saw it in the media business. You see it with these old white guys in the media business that think they run the show, like it's 1950s, 1960s New York City Mad Men style. They can just boss women around. So is there a double standard? Senator Bill de Blasio wants him to resign. So I think this is a real hypocrisy moment for Democrats. Will they stand up? Will we see the same chorus of Democrats standing up and calling for the resignation of Cuomo that we saw when when Republicans had fewer allegations against them and stood up and demanded a resignation? Brett Kavanaugh, for instance, just one example. I mean, they literally brought her before Christine Blasey Ford in front of the Senate during the confirmation hearing to tell her side of the story. that this is not the standard of the Supreme Court. We do not want somebody who does this to women on the Supreme Court. Okay, well, do you want that person to also be governor of New York? So I think there's a real atonement moment coming. And also, I think it's convenient, too, that like Chris Cuomo from CNN can't now cover his brother, has come out on his show and says, obviously, I can't cover this story on my show, but CNN has to cover the story. He's my brother. But you can have him on and interview him unrelated to his sexual allegation stories? Like, why now? So you've had him on where, you know, you had this sort of like love fest back and forth about COVID and his response in New York, and it's okay to interview him then, but not now. In fact, I think that would be a smart move for CNN. Have Chris Cuomo interview his brother, right? The whole tagline of Chris Cuomo's show on CNN is how he's a tough interviewer. He doesn't let nothing, I think it's called like Nothing Gets By Chris. Great. He should do the interviews. According to the news this morning, though, Andrew Cuomo has basically gone into hiding. No one's been hearing from him. And here's a guy who largely a lot of Democrats thought could be the face and future of the party, running for president. Oh, how the tide has turned. But, you know, on this show, I think we should hold up every party, every politician to the same standard. And Democrats need to stand tall and demand a full investigation of this and demand, you know, that he resign. At this point, where there's smoke, there's fire, and we have photos of it.
Well, and look at like
facing it.
Look at like what's her name, Monica Lewinsky. I mean, that whole thing came out. Clinton stayed president. Clinton just walks around like nothing happened, and her life is basically ruined. Like her reputation, like she has lived with that. You know,
she was shamed. Yeah.
The same with Tara Reid with the whole Biden thing. Tara Reid was marginalized and you know, called a liar and everything else, and she had more proof than most of the women that accused Trump.
Yeah, exactly. But we can't call attention to that. If you're the mainstream media, you can't call attention to that because that's Joe Biden, right? You're CNN's boy. You're MSNBC's boy. You can't call attention to Joe Biden. How dare you?
Come on, man.
It's true. If that was a Republican, there'd be wall-to-wall coverage of it on CNN and MSNBC. What do you think? Should he resign? I thought he should have resigned when we started finding out the details about the cover-up on the COVID deaths at the nursing homes. You want to add another layer on it now? Let me know in the chat below what you think about all that. Let's kick on some music and check the super chats. How many of you dropped? We've got some new members today. Thank you guys so much for supporting independent journalism and being a part of our great community here. I really appreciate it. We got 12 new channel members. You can become a VIP channel member and support independent journalism, covering the stories that they won't cover on MSNBC and the mainstream media. We cover progressive issues you won't see there. So thank you for supporting us. Just go to morninginvest.com/join is how you can do that. We got
we got David Botting with $3.99. Thank you. We got Betty Thomas with $5. Betty Thomas with two $5 super chats. Thank you, Betty. Mark Anthony with a $5 super chat. I'm so over the government. They don't want to help us. They want us to think they're doing their job when they are doing nothing. That is so true.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? They canceled the House of Representatives next week, canceled their vacation next week. Nancy Pelosi says, I don't think it's time. We should not be taking a break right now. We've got a lot of work to do. Do you feel good about that? Like they have another vacation after they just had another vacation a few weeks ago?
We got another Mike Davidson, $5. I'm still not getting newsletter, not in inbox, spam, or junk folder. I even opened a new email thinking it was that. Nope, still nothing. Love the show. Are you getting, what? Mike, are you getting the verification email and then clicking on that? You have to click on the verification email. Are you doing that by chance? Try that.
Yeah, make sure when you submit, because some people put in the wrong email address or they type it wrong. But when you just go here, go to morninginvest.com, right there in that box, put in your proper email address, hit subscribe.
And then that's going to prompt an email to be sent to you. And in that email, there's a link to click, and then it takes you back to the website. You have to click that link. And then it takes you back to the website, and you'll see a green bar at the top that says you're subscribed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we've got a $5 super chat from Tammy Mason and a $3 super chat from Cindy Mackey. Thank you. Those are super stickers. And then Mike Davidson, $2. I signed your petition, Clayton.
Awesome. Yeah, the $2,000 recurring monthly stimulus. Which, hey, we know that the calls for it are getting louder and louder and louder. And the fact that constituents are supporting this, I mean, why the heck do you have 11 senators now who are pushing for the very same thing? It's not a coincidence that I'm not saying our stimulus is responsible in any, or our petition in any way, but look, when you have growing calls from members of Congress to do what we've been calling for, and not just fully progressive members, calling for an additional economic recovery of regular monthly stimulus checks every month through the end of this recovery, and they know they have the support. I mean, over 70% of Americans supporting this. So get on the side of where the American people are on this. It's a win. It's a winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Okay, we got Rise Up GG, $4.99. Here in Arizona, mine and my wife's hours got cut over half. I make $10 too much a week to get partial unemployment. $10 too much. Sharon Polium, $2. Hey, Clayton and David, I upgraded to gold. Yay. Welcome to gold.
Thank you.
Katie O'Brien, $5. If Governor Cuomo is stripped of his emergency powers, does that undo all past executive orders or just going forward? Asking as a New Yorker.
Sorry, give me that one again.
If Governor Cuomo is stripped of his emergency powers, does that undo all past executive orders or just going forward? Asking as a New Yorker.
From what I understand, it would undo the past executive orders. Because those particular orders were put in place with his pandemic powers, basically. And it would undo it from my understanding of it.
Where is that? Okay. Coney Isle, $2. I know why I feel shafted. They're all D's. I now know why. Yes.
That's right.
Julie Jiggets with the $1.99. Thank you. The Goddess. I remember Cuomo's brother said to him, "That's why mom likes me better" on national TV. I remember that. $5.
Yeah.
Thank you, Goddess. Natasha Frelin, $4.99. Vacation. I can't vacation. I'm broke. Where's our financial relief?
Exactly.
Mike Davidson, $5. Yeah. I've tried. Will unsubscribe and try again. Thank you. Love you guys. No worries, Mike. Keep us posted.
Yeah, and if you have an issue, just let us know again if there's a big issue. We'll try to get it resolved some other way.
Outstanding entertainment with $5. Clayton, can you help the people from St. Louis find a progressive candidate?
Well, I will say you guys are very lucky to have Cori Bush. It's from the 1st District. I forget. That's a sign of Missouri right there, in Cori Bush. But you've got a couple of mayoral races coming up, if I'm not mistaken. 538.com has some good breakdowns of some of the different candidates in your mayoral race there. I don't know. And that's the thing. We need more clarity on these progressive candidates. I would love to have some of them here on the show to highlight them. We've got Lewis Reed, Tishara Jones, Kara Spencer running right now in the 4 candidates for St. Louis mayor's race. Likely to have a black a black mayor because Kara Spencer. Yeah. But again, I'm not sure. I wish I knew more about those particular candidates. But so Tishara Jones for mayor looks to be the most progressive candidate in St. Louis. Tishara Jones. But right now, yeah, we'll see. But Tishara Jones is the more progressive candidate right now in the mayor's race in St. Louis. So thank you for that question.
Walter Klopp, $2. What do you think of Kaylee joining Fox News? I think, wasn't she the press secretary?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean,
it's kind of like a revolving door around there.
It's like, welcome back. Like, you were already here. You're back. Okay. Not a surprise. There's such a close relationships with the network and that White House that it's not a surprise. I mean, when I worked there, it was common. It's like, who's going next? Oh, she's leaving. Heather Nauert's now at the State Department. Kimberly Guilfoyle's leaving. Okay.
Hey, at least she didn't totally ruin her career and go to OWN or Newsmax.
Yeah. Jeez.
We got 15 new members. Thank you guys for becoming members. If you want to become a member and chat, you can head to morninginvest.com/join. That gets you access to chat and also gets you access to videos and stuff behind the scenes. So welcome to all you new members. And then Mike Davidson, $5. Do we know when we will be final vote on stimulus, or are they going to keep dragging it out so many are hurting? Yeah, are they going to keep filibustering us, Clayton?
Probably by the end of the week, we're hoping to have a bill by the Senate that they'll have signed, hopefully on the floor, maybe by the end of this week at the Senate. Then it goes back to the House. Okay, then the House gets it again. And then once they're done, then it goes to the Senate. Then it goes to the president. Maybe next week. They're trying to hit that March 14th deadline. So they've got to do it within like 12 days. So that's our deadline that we're working up against right now. We got a bunch of pet photos here. I wanted to get to those. Here's Alvin from Bruce Kane. He says, this is Alvin minus all the chipmunks.
Did you get the access to the newsletter or the login for the pet email?
I didn't just yet, but I'll check it after the show.
Okay.
Bailey. Here's Bailey. Look at that little chihuahua.
Gosh. That looks a lot like Abby.
So cute. 3 years old, a little Bailey.
I want all the chihuahuas.
Yo quiero.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Bella. David quiero all of the chihuahuas. Bella. Bella with her tongue out, I suppose. Here's Blue. Here's Blue. This is from the Jordans. Sent this from Texas. Thank you guys for sending that from Texas. Or is it Blue Pit Loki? You wrote Blue Pit Loki. So
a blue pit bull named Loki.
Oh, okay. Blue pit bull named Loki. Gotcha. Here's Kurt. That's a cute.
Let's go, Kurt.
From Sherilyn Torre in Hermiston, Oregon. Am I saying that right? Hermiston, Oregon? I defer to you, David, for all the Pacific Northwest questions.
Yeah, it sounds
the whole
good to
of the
me.
world out there to me. Here's Braveheart. He says, good morning, Grover. Hammy the ham bone. Hammy the ham bone. Let's see, who else do we have here this morning? Central Valley, California. Here's Zelda. I love the name. And Harley is the big one. And Gandalf the Gray. So Gandalf the Gray cat. Harley is the big dog. And Zelda is the little one. Good luck trying to keep all of those in a photo together. Like, man, that must have been like wrangling cats. Like, hey, everyone, pause. Get here together. We're going to take a photo together. I love that they're all nerd names, by the way. Gandalf from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit.
Pun unintended, I'm sure. Pause.
That's right. Pause here. Geraldine Miller sent in from Ohio, sent in her cat. Here's my cat. She didn't give a name though. She said, "Here's my cat." Maybe the cat's name is Cat. That'd be easy to remember. Oh, look at that little puppy. And sorry, look at that little Casey. Casey
Kitten.
is the name of the little
kitten.
That's what I'm looking for. Phyllis from Chicago. Like, what is that? A puppy? No, it's a kitten. It's been a long show, man. Lay off.
Come on, man.
We have some more members. Mike Davidson, $5. Should be a nice day in the Couve today, David. I live here as well. Beautiful state, 60 today. Man, if it's going to be 60 and sunny here today, I am going to be a very happy camper. Coney Isle, $2. Yo quiero better politicians. Oh, I think we lost Clayton. Clayton told me at the beginning of the show, he's like, now, we've been having power outages, so every once in a while, I might lose power. And I think it just happened. I think Clayton just lost power. He said, like, if something happens, like if they run the toaster or something like that, so he's getting the power worked on. So David, don't stay up long, but Clayton and David can see all at the end. So, Ghost Kitties, $5. People have already forgot vaccine companies killing puppies to test COVID vaccine. I've not heard anything about that, but if that's going on, that is very, very sad. So, all right, well, you guys, I guess on that was the last super chat. I'm gonna go ahead and end the show. So yeah, I am going to probably, if it's gonna be 60 degrees today and sunny, like Mike said, I'm probably gonna end up cleaning out my garage, because that's like a perfect like beginning of spring, nice 60-day weather thing to do. So, all right, you guys. What's that say? Well, some good show, David. I'll tell him he's got too much load going on his panel. He's going to end up with a fire. No, Mark, he won't. It has something to do with the way that his power is set up. It's set up in phases. He just has, when you have a home, like you can have a phase that's for low voltage, like if it's nobody is living there or something because it's a new home, and then you have to get it turned on to the next phase, which is full power. So we'll do that. Dan, I forgot your super chat. No, I read your super chat, Dan, didn't I? I went through all the super chats. Let me look one more time here. I don't want to miss a super chat. We can't have that. Dan, I don't see a super chat from you, Dan. There it is. Oh. How was that? Okay, so Dan, good morning. Clayton, if there's a universal income that would happen to disabled ones or SSI or SSDI, yeah, Clayton has said several times that is in there, but who knows? Like, it's all of it is in there. It says they're going to do this, it says they're going to do that, but whether or not they do, that's the question. Like, what's going to get stripped in the final bill? What's going to be in there when it's done, when it's signed? So who knows? And Johnny Hustle, welcome as a new member. Johnny Hustle, $5. Congress needs to fix the unfair 2 Senate seats per state system. It sounds fair, but it's not. ND, North Dakota. South Dakota shouldn't have as much power as California or Texas. I don't think any of them should have power, really. Rich, why do you only refer to super chats? So Rich, we don't just respond to super chats, but the thing is, you got to understand, there's like 5,000 members now, and this chat flies by. We have no way to like mark chats and be able to go back. So that chat is moving by for us really fast. So we found that if we do it as super chats, YouTube puts it in a nice little section for us, and we can just go into that section and see the questions. It's not like you can send $1 super chat. It's not like some kind of money grab. It's just like, we literally cannot go back and scroll through and find questions. So if we don't happen to see a question come in when this is all flying through, it's really hard for us. And a lot of times, I know you guys may not understand that. That's why we try to keep, the all caps and links and stuff out of the chat. We try to make it as good of an experience in chat as we can for you guys. But, if we didn't have members only chat on, it's even worse. Like, we can't keep up with anything. Clayton wants back in. Did he text me? Hold on, let me see if I can get him back. There he is.
Hey.
I thought you lost power.
No. vMix just collapsed.
Oh, really?
Literally. I got a non-responsive vMix issue on our software, our streaming software. So I was just about to say, wrap everything up and say, thanks for a great show, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And then I was like frozen.
Yeah, it was that wasn't a bad freeze frame though. Like sometimes you get really like
the worst of the bad freeze frames, like
yeah, where you look like stoned. Did you text in chat on YouTube, or where did you say you needed back in? Because I didn't get a text message, did I?
I texted you, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to get a hold of you. It's like a
we need to have
a red.
We do.
We need to have like a red phone. We need to have like a studio red phone or something.
Well,
or like a smoke.
What's weird is you're in my favorites, so you're supposed to be able to bypass my. You're supposed to be able to bypass my when I've got it on Do Not Disturb.
Right.
Because my phone is automatically on Do Not Disturb during the shows because, I don't want my phone going off with...
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll figure out a way to make sure.
I did have like one more pet photo I think I wanted to get to, and I don't want to miss that person.
So welcome, new member.
Let's see if I can get this person here. Just I had one or two more pet photos I wanted to get to. We had Phyllis from Chicago, and I had Luan. Here's Luan, the doggy.
The goddess.
Luan, cute doggy. And finally, here's Darcy. This is Darcy. This is from Amy in Chatelaine, or Amy Chatelaine. This is Darcy the kitty cat. That's a cute. That looked like my Mowgli. My cat Mowgli was his name. Because he used to climb on everything like the Jungle Book. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this crazy Wednesday. A couple of things we'll be watching today. I'm going to be watching what happens with this minimum wage amendment from Bernie Sanders. I'll also be watching what happens on this push for the ultra wealth tax and what sort of support we see from the White House on that. And whether or not there'll be bigger calls for Democrats, among Democrats, to call for the resignation of Andrew Cuomo. We'll see further what kind of backlash we see out of Texas, too, with this masks removal and full reopening from Texas. Will we hear the White House speaking out against that? Will we see a clash between Biden and Governor Abbott? All of that and more we'll be keeping our eye on. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks for stepping in there, David, when the old computer crashed.
Yeah, no worries.
I thought with all the power outages we've been experiencing lately, I was like, is that what's going on here?
I need to work on my Tom Hanks impression so that whenever you go away, I can just keep the freeze frame up and sound like you.
Yeah, make sure it's a great freeze frame like this.
And I'll just go,
Or it's like the end of like those Police Academy episodes. I love the Police Academy. No, not Police Academy. It was Police Squad with what was his name? The white-haired comedian from Police Squad, and then he was in Airplane.
Yeah, Leslie.
Starts
No,
with an
yeah,
L,
Leslie.
right?
Leslie.
Yeah,
Leslie.
Yeah,
Nielsen?
Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, but they would do that at the end of the Police Squad episodes, where they would like until next week, blah 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 blah, and they would stand there and they would pretend like they were freeze framed, like coming up on Morning Invest tomorrow. We'll be covering the stimulus and all your economic news to make sure that you're taken care of. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Bye-bye.